Ominous clouds have begun to gather over the People's Democratic Party as members within its fold remain divided on the issue of presidential zoning ahead of the 2023 general election. While some influential members are insisting that the party opens up the contest for its presidential ticket to all sections of the country, others have called on the PDP to adhere to the power-sharing arrangement which it initiated in 1999 in the interest of equity and justice. To discuss the discordant tunes emerging from the party over the issue of presidential zoning, we're now being joined by Umaru Sani, former Senior Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to Vice President Namadi Sambo, and Ilemona Onoja, a lawyer, public affairs analyst, and member of Bukola Saraki's media team. Good morning, gentlemen, and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning, Emmanuel. Good morning, Tundu.
All right, let's just dive right in. It's the issue of zoning that was initially phrased by the PDP, which conceived it in this context as a measure to ensure equity, justice, what have you. Today, it's now being regarded by some in your party as a tool of blackmail that should be jettisoned, as a tool that has outlived its usefulness. How does PDP intend to convince the rest of the country that that is the case, that it should be jettisoned? I'll start with you, Mr. Umaru Sani.
Well, let me state clearly that the PDP constitution is very clear. It has agreed that power should be rotated, but it has not spelled out how such powers should be rotated. So what is very paramount is that in 2015, immediately after the election and when the PDP lost the presidential election, a committee which was headed by former Deputy Senate President Ike Ekweremadu was constituted to review the failure of the party and then the way forward. And in their recommendation, they recommended that power should move to the north because of the prevailing situation. And so at that time, the party adopted it at the next meeting, and so power actually moved, and so that is why at the Port Harcourt Convention you saw quite a lot of aspirants all from the north. Now, a similar scenario has taken place in 2019. In 2019, the PDP, having lost the presidential election and key elections, decided to also constitute a committee which was headed by Senator Bala Mohammed, the current governor of Bauchi State. The committee, in its review, gave a report, and the report says that the presidency should not be zoned; it should be open. And the party is yet to sit down at a next meeting to take a position on the matter. So, various interest groups and various interested personalities for the office of the president have been coming out to canvass that since the report of Senator Bala Mohammed has not assigned the position to any part of the country, they have the right to contest. While others believe that in the interest of equity, justice, and fair play, that since the last time the Ike Ekweremadu committee recommended that it should go to the north, now it should be that the NEC should adopt the zoning to the south. So I think as it is now, there is nowhere where the party has jettisoned or has adopted zoning. So it is still open. That's why people are still coming out to contest.
Thank you, Mr. Sani. Mr. Onoja, your take on that? It's still open, but the speculations are rife, as you must be aware, that PDP is considering jettisoning zoning. What's your take on if PDP was to do that, which is against their constitution and a treasured political convention in this country?
It's very simple. Our country faces an existential crisis. Our party seeks to present itself to the Nigerian people and provide the sort of leadership that is required to resolve that existential crisis. Now, in its consideration, thus far, the party has said would like to consider everybody from across the country, regardless of where you're from, what language you speak, or which God you bow down before, so that we can put our best foot forward and ensure that we give Nigerians the strongest, the easiest choice to make, and then offer strong governorship, strong governance thereafter. If you remember, when the zoning committee for the presidential election, when the zoning committee was set up to zone the offices on the working committee of the party, on the leadership of the party, one of the things that it dealt with, one of the resolutions that was reached in Enugu, was that the office of president and other offices related thereto were not to be zoned, and that they were to be left open for everybody to contest, from people from across the country to contest. If you also remember, after that report was submitted to the NEC ratified that report and adopted it. In so doing, saying, yeah, the zoning is left open. No, the office of president hasn't been zoned to any particular part of the country. It will not be zoned to any particular part of the country. That was the resolution from the zoning committee in Enugu. Not only that, after his emergence as chairman of the People's Democratic Party, our national chairman and leader of our party said, well, we just want to give the country the best foot. We just want to offer the country the best candidates. As such, we're not going to be doing zoning one way or the other. To my mind, with these things having taken place, that is the recommendation of the zoning committee, the report by the Bala Mohammed committee, the adoption of the recommendation of the zoning committee by NEC, and the pronouncements of the national chairman, I actually think that this is a non-issue. I think it's an issue that's already been resolved. And we also have to consider, at this place now, Tunde, when you were speaking, you said it is a power-sharing arrangement that our party instituted in 1999. What that means is that you share what you have. If you have power, you implement the arrangement. You don't have power. What power-sharing arrangement are you talking about? You have to give credence first to winning power. The purpose and the objective of political parties is twofold. One, to win elections. And two, after winning elections, to offer good governance, credible leadership, unifying leadership, visionary leadership to the people of the country. So the consideration, the primary consideration for anybody who is outside of power ought to first be, who can help us win elections? Which are the candidates that offer not just the ability to win elections, but also the ability to manage the country, to govern the country after we've won the elections. Those are the two primary considerations. Right, at the moment, I think that people within our party, we should stick to those considerations and not much else.
Right, so we'll treat that as a prologue. We'll take a short break, gentlemen. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Arise TV. Still with us is Umaru Sani, former Senior Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to Vice President Namadi Sambo, and Ilemona Onoja, lawyer and public affairs analyst, and a member of the Bukola Saraki media team. Now, my question to both of you, I think Sani should come first. Now, the PDP is not an island to itself. The PDP is operating in the Nigerian political space. Can we really justify if after 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari from the north, and the PDP will be thinking of bringing a northern candidate to win elections for them, the sentiments in the country, equity and fairness, power going around, can you really justify that PDP should be presenting a northern candidate. Sani, over to you first.
Well, let me say that you don't get platforms unless you belong to a political party. So if you have a platform where you can now contest, that is your platform and you must have your own arrangement. The PDP has its own arrangement, different from that of the APC. The APC came together purposely to wrestle power from the PDP. So it was an amalgamation of different interests, different political leanings, and so forth and so on, that came together to form the APC. So they are a political party on their own, and the PDP has its own history. And we cannot, deviate from our own history. Our history is very clear and not ambiguous at all. The first 8 years of the PDP administration, which was done by President Olusegun Obasanjo, terminated in 2007. And in 2007, President Umar Musa Yar'Adua took over the mantle. The North was expecting that it was going to, the PDP especially, felt that the North would have its own share for 8 years. But unfortunately, Umar Musa died after about 2 years on the throne, and then President Goodluck Jonathan took over the mantle, 1 year as acting president and 1 year as a substantive president. So the North has lost the power equation. In 2011, President Goodluck Jonathan won the election, which is also in the overall interest of the South. So if you take a holistic look at the PDP's power rotation arrangement, the North has been shortchanged. And so if the North decides that, oh, no, within our own party, we have been shortchanged, and because we are a platform, we have an arrangement, because anything you want to quote, you cannot quote that in the APC constitution, how it affects a PDP person. No, it is how our constitution affects our contestants that matters. And so the North feels this is the right time for us to come in. There have been various arguments that in 2019, the North was given the chance, but we didn't win. And so somebody said, well, whether we won or we didn't win, we have gotten the chance. And I said, okay, in 2011, the South got the chance. And in 2015, the South also got the chance, but we didn't win. So whichever way you look at it, within the PDP family, I think the North is justified to come out clearly and say, we want to contest this position and we want to get it. And more importantly, it is winning the election and not the zoning. If we zone it, we cannot continue to remain as an opposition because we have the potentials. Nigerians have now compared the APC and the PDP, and they have already made their assessment. So with the PDP, I believe that we are very powerful in the Nigerian political context, and so we have to field our best at this particular moment so that we can win that election. When we win the election and we come back, then within ourselves, we can now begin to say, okay, equity demands that it should go to southeast, southwest, south. That will make it much more better than arguing when we don't even have it.
Okay, Mr. Noja, the sentiment in the country now is that power should come to the South. Can PDP really justify that power should remain in the North? Because whether it's PDP or APC, power is going to remain in the North, going by what you are canvassing.
Well, can I do a slight amendment to what I'm canvassing? Let me clarify what I'm canvassing. I'm canvassing for a Nigerian president, a president that considers all of our country as his constituency. I'm canvassing for somebody who realizes that as president, he must be a bridge between the North and the South, between the young and the old, between the rich and the poor. It really doesn't matter to me where the person comes from or what God the person worships. Part of the problems that we have that have brought us to the most divisive country that we have had since the Civil War is that the outlook of the president and the administration that he leads favors one part of the country over the others. We cannot continue to do things in that old way where we must or we insist on viewing ourselves as a northerner, a southerner, and what have you. And we work towards that argument rather than an outlook that sees us as Nigerians, regardless of where we're from. That old way has failed us for so long. That old way has brought us here. Now, I do not think it will be sensible to anybody to say that we have capable, competent people who show the capacity to win us elections and to govern this country properly. But we shouldn't give them consideration. We shouldn't give them an opportunity. We shouldn't give them a chance because they're from that part of the country or because they worship such and such a god. That for me, and that for many members of my generation, doesn't make much sense, to be honest. We're in a place, like I said before, where Nigeria, our dearly beloved country, faces an existential crisis. We do not even know if our security issues are going to be overcome such that we remain one country. We face two agitations for separation from the southeast and the south-south. What we should be discussing isn't that how we retreat into ethnic cleavages for the purposes of accessing power. What we should be discussing is who can help, who can be president that can help us overcome our security issues? Who can be president that can help us rebuild our economy? Who can be president that can help us send our children back to school? Who can be president that can give our young people jobs? Who can be president that can make our old people safe? Who can be president that can make our farms productive? These are the critical questions. These are the critical issues. And we must go to those conversations. We need to leave this conversation alone. This conversation about North and South. No, we want a Nigerian president. We don't want a president or a president for the South or a president for the North or a president for the East and what have you. Let the credential, the primary credential that anybody brings to a table not be where I am from, what language I speak, which God I worship. Let it be, look at my track record of delivery and look at what I promise to do, look at how I will do it, look at where I will get the resources to do it. That's what we should be talking about.
All that sounds terribly egalitarian, I'm sure. But when you talk about how we should have the PDP field a candidate with competence, capability, and what have you, are you suggesting that such a candidate does not exist in the South? From what you are saying, is that only the North can deliver that?
No. No. I didn't say that. I said consider his competence. It doesn't matter whether the person comes from the South or the North. Consider his competence. Leave the exclusive criteria first. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you one of the reasons why there's so much premium placed on zoning, what the rationale behind it is. The rationale behind zoning is that unless the president comes from my area or unless the president comes from my zone, my people will not enjoy the dividends of democracy. As long as the president comes from some other area or from some other zone, we will be excluded. That in itself is a foundational problem and has led us to where we are as a badly divided country. Take that off the table. Let us all Nigerian people, regardless of the zone that you are, have equal access to the benefits of governance, have equal access to the dividends of democracy. When we are in that state, when we correct the injustice that is buried in the foundations of the zoning principle, then you will be able to have a conversation, a proper conversation. Now, I also like to finalize, I would like to end my answer to this question on another note. Assuming without conceding that we must stick to a zoning principle, right? Then we must stick to two places. Only two zones must be in this conversation. And I will explain. This country, in this country, of the 6 geopolitical zones, 4 have had the opportunity within the PDP of providing a presidential or a vice presidential candidate. 4. They are the Southwest, President Olusegun Obasanjo, the Northwest, late President Umaru Yar'Adua, the former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, former Vice President and presidential candidate of the PDP in 2019, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. The 2 zones that have not produced a presidential candidate of on the platform of our party is the Northwest, the Southeast and the North Central. Those are the only 2 zones. Of these 2 zones, only 1 zone has never produced a vice presidential candidate or a presidential candidate. Do you see how exclusionary we can make that argument? That argument can be made. However, my primary foundation is, let's not even talk about all that in the first place. Let's not have that conversation. Let's talk about what is important to the Nigerian people. And you may say it's egalitarian. I hear that. I see the argument. But more importantly, that is the old way that has brought our country to its knees. Our country needs to stand. Our country needs to stand back up. And for us to be able to do that, we must change the argument. We must change the focus of the conversation. In that wise, the position of the party that leave this zoning open to everybody, let people from all across the country show us their credentials, show us their capacity, show us a cross-country network, show us an ability to win an election, show us an ability to adequately, properly, and rightly govern our country, and we'll throw our weight behind you. Let that remain. That's what is important.
Well, let me just take the conversation slightly out of the person, and let's look at the structures. Now, the People's Democratic Party is angling to take over from the APC. This emphasis on the person who can do the job, the person who can do the job. Nigerians know better. In 2015, there was a clear focus on the person who can do the job, the person who has military background, the person who has integrity, the person who can fight corruption. But we know better today. Now, my question is this. The PDP as a party, in all your conversations, we hardly hear of a blueprint to turn things around. A blueprint of the PDP to turn things around, because we've tried the PDP before, 16 years. What are you going to do differently beyond the person? Because we don't want to put all our trust in just one person. Because we've tried that before, and I'm not sure Nigerians are very happy with that. Sani, over to you.
Well, you see, we have a proverb in Hausa which says that it is only the person who sells a bad product that will now continue to make noise so that people will buy it. But we have good products in the PDP. And right from 1999 to date, the PDP has never let Nigerians down. President Olusegun Obasanjo, in his 8 years as the president of the country, has set the parameter for good governance in Nigeria. He has not only fought corruption, to a standstill. He was also able to wipe away our debts, brought more developmental projects, initiated power projects, thermal power projects, and so many other things that Nigerians have seen. So the APC was only coming in, so they needed to market their own. And in marketing their own, they stood on the tripod of fighting corruption, building the economy, and insecurity that came in. Now, the insecurity that came at that time, at the time of the PDP, it came at a time where, it was a new thing to Nigerians and even to the Nigerian army. And I think the Nigerian army was at the verge of, taking care of them, having with the policy of the government, bringing in, security consultants who actually helped to try to, quash the insurgency. But it was within that period that power changed hands. So I think the PDP left an economy that was vibrant and that it was number one in Africa. The PDP was a trading destination. So the PDP is well endowed with people with capacity, people with abilities to deliver to Nigerians what they wanted. The PDP didn't allow the dollar to skyrocket to 565 to a dollar. At the time President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan left it, it was about 198 to $1. So generally, the economy was doing well. The fighting corruption was excellent because it was the PDP that brought in all the institutions that are fighting corruption. If you talk about EFCC, ICPC, the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Unit, and whatever, the PDP actually initiated all these things to fight corruption to its standstill. So I think the PDP, the APC is only merely enjoying the benefit of what the PDP has put on ground. So in terms of human resources, we have them in abundance who will deliver. And so our party is very confident that whatever we are saying it on the premise that we have now set a standard where the current government has failed to improve upon.
Mr. Onoja, the same question. The Nigeria you want to rule from 2023 is not the Nigeria you left in 2015. Where is your blueprint to turn things around that you are saying has gone so badly in this country as a party?
Okay, thank you very much, Emmanuel, for the question. And it isn't me who's saying, it's not just me who's saying that the country has become so badly run. By every developmental indices in the world, every standard for measurement, the fortunes of our country have greatly dwindled since 2015, by every standard of measurement globally. Now, why do I think that the PDP is better placed to help us rebuild our country after the 2023 elections? One, experience. In 1999, the PDP inherited a very badly run down, very badly damaged country. And over time, began to put in place fundamental structures that ensured that when they handed over the country to the APC in 2015, we handed over a better country than what we inherited. The Buhari-led, APC-led federal government, this administration, has taken us back to places worse than we were in 1999. Our party has shown a history, a track record of being able to open new spaces, of being able to do things differently, and then by so doing change our fortunes. I'll give you an example. Emmanuel, do you reckon that if President Muhammadu Buhari had taken over directly from the military in 1999, we would have had the telecommunications revolution that we enjoy, that makes it possible for you and I in two completely different cities to have this conversation over the air to millions of Nigerians at the same time? Absolutely not. I don't think it would have happened. The foundations for what makes this conversation possible was policies implemented by a PDP government. The existence, I'll give you another example, the existence of Arise TV as a private television station only made possible because PDP liberalized the media space. Up until that point, we fundamentally had, a handful of TV stations, most of the media controlled by government.
No.
We saw a liberalization.
No, Mr. Onoja, I'm talking of your blueprint to take us out of the rut you are talking about.
Two things. I'm making that point.
No, we don't have so much time. That's why I'm trying to bring
blueprint I'm done. I'll be done here. I'm saying to you that blueprint, that we're here because of examples of that blueprint. I'm saying to you that we're not coming as a new set of people who have never done anything for this country. I'm saying to you that there's a track record to point back at and say, over the years, this is what we have done. This is how we have affected and improved the lives and well-being of the Nigerian people. That's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying to you, we're not coming as a new set of people. I'm saying that we have a history to point people back at and say, hold on, but we're able to improve here, 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 and here.
Thank you, Mr.
Now,
Onoja.
don't get me wrong. There were mistakes made in the past.
Sorry, we only have about a minute left. I want to just take this question to Mr. Sani and talk about the lack of cohesion, which was pointed to as one of the factors that cost PDP the presidency in 2015. What overtures are you making to power blocs like the southern governors of the PDP who do want to see a southern president, other people that might be disgruntled by the turn the party appears to be taking at this point, so that you go into the 2023 elections a united party?
Well, to answer this question very quickly, you should know that we have severally said it, that we have an internal mechanism that we use to resolve conflicts within the party, and it is very swift. The PDP is like a family. Whatever issues that arise, when it comes to the issue of resolution, it becomes very easy. You don't have such type of divisions that you have here, there, everywhere is united. You can see we have had so many issues and they have been resolved, and the party is still moving on very strongly, and chasing after it. So this thing, and so these are pressure groups, these are interest groups. So they form a political party. So people are at liberty to agitate, to say, okay, we want power. We want power. They advance their reasons. Everybody advances his own reason why power should go to him. But at the end of the day, wherever it goes, the PDP as a family will make a push and ensure that there is cohesion and that we actually hit the nail on the head. Yes, and
Can I quickly contribute?
Well, we'll leave it on that optimistic note from you, Mr. Sani, and thank you for joining us as well, Mr. Onoja.